Okay, please, 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 folks, stay with me, stay focused, because we are going to be taking a major test over linear functions. There might be some inequalities thrown in there. And I'm going to kind of talk about all of these questions, even in more detail than what it's asking. So I need your focus here. Number one, a lot of kids were struggling with number one because they didn't know what it was asking. What is it asking? The x-intercept, the zero, the root. Where does it intersect the x-axis? So this is basically what you did for homework last night, but do you see how they like to take something simple and make it sound more complicated? They want to know the coordinates of the point, so they want you to write it as a point where it intersects the x-axis. Well, that happens when y is 0. So you're putting a 0 in for y. Negative 6 times 0, this whole thing just kind of disappears. What is the x-intercept? 6. What would that be as a point? 6 comma 0. Guess what they also put as an answer choice? 0 comma 6, and unfortunately some kids fell for that. This was the x-intercept, which is 6 comma 0. Are we okay with that one? Alright, on number 2, I wanted to remind you about inequalities. When you divide by a negative, something funny happens. I can tell I'm going to have to do something to this problem before I even start it. I'm going to have to flip the sign at some point, because I can see y has a negative 4 in front of it. Alright, my first job, though, is to move that 3x to the other side. So then I have negative 4y is greater than negative 3x minus 24. Are you with me there? All I did was move this guy over here. Now I'm about to divide everything by negative 4. Negative 4 divided by negative 4, that's how I get y. 1y all by itself. What happens to this? It must flip. And negative 3x divided by negative 4 is positive 3/4 x. And negative 24 divided by negative 4 is positive 6. So I was looking for this. And they might even ask you to pick the picture that it matches. Is this line going up or down? Yeah, it's starting at 6. It's going up 3 and over 4. It's dashed. This isn't very pretty. And it would be shaded below. So they might even ask you to pick the picture. Okay, number 3. Let's talk about number 3. Okay, they give you this weird-looking equation. What do you think C stands for? What do they tell you it stands for? Cost. I didn't really write the whole problem because I ran out of space, but I think they did tell you what N stands for as well. Guess what N stands for? The number of ounces. So you're putting in ounces and you're getting back cost, because the cost of your package the cost to mail your package depends on how much it weighs. And we are going to talk about why they're doing this in just a second, but let's just look at the question it's asking. It says if he spent $13.50, how many ounces did it weigh? So are they giving me an X or a Y right here? That's a Y. The X's are ounces. The Y's are cost, and they're asking me how many ounces did it weigh? How many N's did it weigh if the cost was $13.50? You can do this mathematically, algebraically. You also can do it in your calculator. Let's try it algebraically. $13.50 equals $1.50 plus 50 cents times N minus 1. How would I solve this? Gotta distribute. You cannot have this N trapped in the parentheses. So that's going to be 0.50 N minus 50 cents. Now, 150 and negative 50, you got to put those together. What's $1.50 and negative 50 cents? That's $1. Okay, so now I don't have much space here. Now I have $13.50 equals $1 plus 50 cents times N. Now what? Subtract $1, and you're going to get $12.50 equals 50 cents times N. Now what? Divide. I would probably use my calculator for this step. So I'm going to do $12.50 divided by 50 cents. 25 what? Ounces. Let's talk about how you could do this in your calculator. You could put in the function rule just like it looks, except I'm going to use an x instead of n. It's $1.50 plus 50 cents times x minus 1. You had to understand that 13.50 was another y value. It was an output. It was or they called it a cost, but it was a y that they were giving us. We're trying to find the x. What do I do now? See where they intersect. Now I want to show you something. I just put 2 lines into my y equals and I only see 1 line. Why? Yeah, my second line was y equals 13.50. Well, in Zoom 6, I only go up to a y value of 10. So I could either zoom out or I could change my highest y value. I'm going to zoom out. Let's review how to zoom out. You hit zoom, you pick number 3, zoom out, and you have to hit enter twice or it's not going to do it. The calculator cannot tell you where it's intersecting unless it can actually see where it's intersecting. So I'm going to do calculate where they intersect, first curve, second curve, guess, and look what it tells me. If x is 25, look what y is. 13.50. That's the cost they gave us, and this is the number of ounces, 25 ounces. Okay, I need everybody's full attention. Please, 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 let's talk about this equation right here, because they like to use these kinds of equations where they are subtracting something from your initial amount. Why are they subtracting 1 here? That's what we need to talk about. I have seen a question like this where they ask you about slope, or they give you a bunch of statements and ask you which thing is true. Does each ounce cost 50 cents? It's really close, but every ounce does not cost 50 cents. Every ounce after the first ounce costs 50 cents. Here's the deal, guys, with this equation right here. Let's put in a 1 for 1 ounce. Let's put in a 1. We're going to mail a 1 ounce package. What's 1 minus 1? 0. What's 0 times 50 cents? So did that one cost 50 cents? No, how much did that one cost? $1.50. So in this kind of problem, it's like the first ounce is included in the initial charge. After you pay for that $1.50 ounce, then what do they start doing? Then they start being 50 cents a piece. So if you were looking at which statement is true, each ounce is not 50 cents. Each ounce after the first ounce is 50 cents. Do you see what I'm saying? And what if it had been this? Then each ounce after the 5th ounce is 50 cents. Do you see? That's what's happening in this kind of problem. All right, and then number 4, we talked about this yesterday. I hope you remember. I don't know why these fraction bars won't come. All right, we did talk about direct variation. What point has to be on a direct variation? 0, 0. The trick to this one is figuring out what is independent and what is dependent. We are eating candy, and while we are eating candy, we are also eating calories. Does candy depend on calories or calories depend on candy? The number of calories you eat depends on how much candy you put in your mouth. So what's the X? Candy. You choose how much candy you want to eat, and the more candy you eat, what's happening? The more calories you are also consuming. So you are inputting candy and outputting calories. So what's my X number? I only gave you 1 point. Why can I only give you 1 point? Because the other one's 0, 0. If you eat 0 pieces of candy, you have eaten 0 calories from that candy. And it also says varies directly. That's a special situation where you only need 1 point to find the whole equation. Now, the trick is, what is that 1 point? Is it 24.5 or 524? It's 524. Normally, you'd have to find slope. We already know the y-intercept. On a direct variation, what's y-intercept? 0. But we still need to find slope, and this is the one case where you just use 1 point, and slope is always y over x. And it's usually subtract the y's over subtract the x's, and one of our values is always 0, 0. That's why this is so easy. So what's the slope? Is it 5/24 or 24/5? It's 24 over 5. So even if you got through all of that, this is how I usually write it. I usually write the x out to the side. And it was so sad this year, lots of kids picked the same wrong answer, which made me very sad. They understood it was 24 over 5, so they knew they could cancel those. But which one's correct out of what's left? A. X should never be in the bottom of a fraction if it's linear. Never. That's not a line if x is in the bottom of a fraction. That's something completely different. If they choose to stick the x into the fraction, it has to go on the top. Okay, so that was a little bit of review. I also want to do, we kind of have 2 lessons today too, like we did yesterday. This first isn't really a lesson. I just want you to look at this question. Read this to yourself. It's about driving home from a family reunion. Who wants to read it for us? All right, Ashley, go ahead. Okay, so very good. I have given you some information here. First of all, this problem says it's he's driving home at a constant rate. What kind of function do you think that's going to make it be? A line. Linear functions have constant rates. They increase or decrease at the same amount in between each point. Now, did I tell you the slope? I didn't tell you the slope. Did I tell you the y-intercept? I didn't tell you the y-intercept. Well, I told you something. I told you 2 points. I gave you 2 different data points. And if you know 2 points on a line, what can you do? You can find the equation, and you can do all kinds of things with the equation once you know it. Now, the trick is, kind of like on that calorie and candy problem, what is independent and what is dependent? What is my x and what is my y? Yes. If time is involved, I hate to use the word always, but if time is involved, it's usually your independent value. You're inputting hours and you're getting back miles. You're getting back distances. In other words, his distance from home, this depends on how many hours he's been driving. So you have to take those 2 points, which were given to you in different orders, by the way. Look at the first point. I gave you a time and then a distance. And the second point, I gave you a distance and then a time. You've got to put them in the right order. What would this point be? I mean, which is my x and which is my y? What would it look like as a point? 1/2, comma 83.25. That's one of my points. What would this be as a point? 2 hours, 18 miles. Okay, do your thing with your calculator. You can change 1/2 to 0.5, or the calculator will do it for you. So you're going to go to Stat Edit, Stat Calculate, and it will tell you the whole equation. And then I'm going to ask you to do something with that equation. You can just leave it as a decimal. I'm okay with that. Who is who? I don't get it. Oh, I got you. Yes. When would time not be independent? You're going to have to let me think about that. But I have seen an example, like a calculus example, when time was not the independent. Thank you, sir. Okay. Let's, well, somebody can give me the equation. Y equals what? Wait, negative 40. Okay. Now, I made this up, so the equation is not that bad, but one of the questions I'm going to have you answer in a second is kind of weird. But what is the slope? Jaquan, what's the slope of this line? Jaquan, wake up. What is the slope? It's basically right here for you. I'm not being that mean. Negative 43.5. What per what? Slope is always a unit. Miles per hour. In other words, this is his rate, his speed. Why is it negative? Because what's going down? His distance from home is going down because he's driving towards home. Okay, what's the significance of this? Yeah, so if I asked you how many miles away from home when he started, 105 miles. Usually y-intercept is where something starts. The rate at which he is driving, that's the slope. It's always a y per x. It always is a rate. In this case, it's miles per hour. My y word was miles. My x word was hours. What do you think I could ask you next? How long it takes him to get home? What am I asking you for there? I'm asking for hours when the distance is what? 0. I'm asking for the x-intercept. Find the x-intercept. And it's not a nice number. Just give me 3 places after the decimal. But understanding the significance of the slope, the x-intercept, and the y-intercept, those are 3 things that they love to ask about. So how do I find the x-intercept of any function? Put in a 0 for y. That means when is he going to be home? When is his distance from home going to be at 0? Remember, x-intercepts are usually where something finishes or ends. And it was a weird number. 2 point what? 2.143 hours. And the significance of that is when he's going to get home. Are y'all with me there? And yes, Lily said I could give you a time. Like I could ask you, where is he at exactly 1 hour? Where is he going to be? What is his distance from home at 1 hour? Where would you get that answer? Table set. If I want to know how far away he is from home at 1 hour, I am giving you an X number, and you would just go to the table and look at the Y. How far away is he after 1 hour? 147.5. Are y'all with me there? I could do all kinds of things once you know the equation. My worry is they're going to give you this setup and then go straight to asking you when will he get home. So you would have to know, oh, I've got 2 points. I've got to take those 2 points and make an equation, and then I've got to use that equation and find the x-intercept. So do you see how many leaps it takes to get from the setup to the actual solution? Okay, so that's just kind of a review because we've talked about all of that. But you got to know the significance of x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. I'm not sure. Okay, y'all need to stand up and do 5 jumping jacks. Y'all are falling asleep on me. Everybody, wake up. Wake up. Stand up. Stretch your legs. We got a whole nother lesson. Get woke. Somebody turn the light on. Y'all get too comfortable, Jaquan. It's something about this row. This third row is like the sleepy row. Okay, we'll grade homework after the lesson. This lesson is pretty simple, I hope. And it is the third and final form of a linear function that you must be familiar with, and it is called point-slope form. Guess what you need to put a line in point-slope form? A point and a slope. Well, your life includes Algebra 1, so yes, you're using it right now. Okay, alright, I will address that question, folks. The answer is, lots of you probably won't ever use this past Algebra 1 or Algebra 2, but it is a requirement to get a high school degree and many college degrees. My husband doesn't use algebra at all. He hates algebra. But some of you are going to become engineers or doctors or things that are going to use math. This time in your life is the time to figure out what it is you like. What is your talents? Okay, so some of you might not, some of you might. Either way, you got to know how to do it. You know how you pay taxes? You buy TurboTax and you just punch in all the numbers. Okay, here we go. Folks, my job right now, my life, is to make sure you know how to do this in your life. So let's focus. TurboTax? Yes, absolutely. Yes. I used to do that when I was younger and didn't know what I was doing, but TurboTax walks you right through it. Yeah, TurboTax, hit me up. Like my video on YouTube. Okay, let's go, folks. Seriously. Okay, if I give you a point and a slope, I'm going to show you how easy this is. You're going to like this form. I am thinking of a line that goes through the point 4, -6, and has a slope of -2. You just plug it in. Absolutely. In this formula, this y is the letter y. This x is the letter x. Because remember, linear equations have x's and y's in them. This y1 and this x1, that comes from your point value. This is where you use your point. And m, of course, is your slope. So look how easy it is to write a line in point-slope form. I would do y minus the y value of my point. What's the y value? It's minus -6. Now what's that really going to turn into? Minus -6 really becomes +6. So they would probably just write that as y plus 6. Equals my slope, which is -2, times x minus 4. Bam. That's it. Now, does it get harder? Well, I'm going to ask you to do things like maybe take it from this form and put it in another form. But let's keep it easy for a couple of problems. Now, okay, good question. Do you distribute the -2? If I asked you to turn this into a different form, yes. If I want you to leave it in point-slope form, no, we're done. Now, some advantages of point-slope form. It's super easy to write a line in point-slope form. Some disadvantages. It doesn't really tell us much, except the slope. It tells us the slope. Also, I can't put this into y equals. I can't enter it into my calculator unless I make at least one modification. What if I wanted to put this in my calculator and I didn't really want to change its form, but I certainly can't put in y plus 6? What could I do without really distributing or anything like that? Put it on the back end. That plus 6 would become a minus 6. So you could modify it a little bit to make it more calculator friendly. And yes, I am going to make you go from one form to another, which would involve distributing that -2 and doing some other stuff. All right, let's do just another real easy one, though. I'm going to give you a point and a slope. You write the line in point-slope form. -4, -6 is, -4, -8 is my point, and 1/2 is my slope. What would that look like in point-slope form? Y plus 8, y plus 8. Because it has a minus in the formula. How did it become a plus? Because you subtracted a negative. Y minus -8 does become y plus 8. That's correct. Equals what? 1/2 parentheses. Yeah, it started out as x minus -4, but subtracting a negative really turns into adding a positive. That's the answer in point slope form. You're just plugging it in. How can I modify it just a little bit to make it calculator friendly? Y equals 1/2 parentheses x plus 4 minus 8. That way I can at least stick it in the calculator. Alright, one more easy one before I kick it up a notch for you. Give me a point, any point. 2, 1. Give me a slope. 3/4. Alright, write the equation in point slope form. It's always subtracting. It's always subtracting. So it would always be y minus 1 equals 2 parentheses x minus 2. They give you the formula for all the different forms of the lines. Oh, 3/4. I'm kidding. Where did I get the 2 from? Y minus 1 equals 3/4 parentheses x minus 2. That is literally point slope form right there. We're not done. That's really sweet of you to think we're done. We're not anywhere close to being done. Okay, what do you think I could make you do to make this trickier? Oh, okay. Good one. I will give you a line that's in point slope form. Y plus 2 equals 1/3 parentheses x minus 7. Now, what's the slope of this line? 1/3. This is a little trickier. Can you tell me what point I used? I used the point +7, -2. That's the point that was used. Because remember, it's y minus y. Well, if it turned into y plus 2, then it had to be y minus -2. That's why it became y plus 2. And over here, it was x minus 7. So 7 had to be my x value. Yeah, I might do that to you. Let's do another one. Here's a line in point slope form. Y plus 8 equals -1/3 parentheses x plus 10. What's the slope? The slope's -1/3. What is the point that I used? -10, -8. That was the point that was used. You know what this is related to? It's related to the formula for slope. Remember, slope is y minus y and x minus x. It's kind of related to the slope formula. Okay, now, here's another thing that I could and would do. I am going to give you point slope form. You are going to give me back slope intercept form. And standard form. You have to be able to go from one to the other to back to where you started. No, this is for right now work. Okay, now remember, point slope form looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Slope intercept looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. Standard form looks like this. ax plus by equals c. And remember, standard form can't have any fractions or decimals. All right, I'll take it easy on you at first. I'm going to give you a point slope line with a nice whole number slope. Y minus 2 equals -3 parentheses x minus 5. That's not that bad. That's point slope. Now, if I want to convert it to slope intercept, this is where I have to actually distribute the -3 and simplify a bunch of stuff, blah, blah, blah. You can do it, though. So here's point slope form. That part's already done for you. I need to make it into slope intercept form, which means y has to be all by itself, no parentheses. You're going to have to add 2 at some point. You're going to have to distribute the -3 in front of the parentheses and then clean it up, and you'll be done. I usually distribute first. So y minus 2 equals negative 3x plus 15. Now add that 2 to the other side. Y equals negative 3x plus 17. Now, what would that be in standard form? Move that negative 3x to the other side. 3x plus y equals 17. And they also could have it where the x is negative. You never know. I don't add the 2 to what? Okay, here we are at this step. I got rid of the minus 2 by adding 2. So the 15 became, this 2 is in the 15 now. It became a 17. And then I didn't look at my point slope form. I just went from my slope intercept to change it to standard. I moved the negative 3x over here. It's all the same thing. Look how different these all look, but they're all the exact same. They're all the exact same line. To get to standard form, I usually would make it slope intercept first. From point slope to standard, you'd have to go through the middleman here. Okay, let's try another one. I'm going to give you one more where it's got a nice, easy slope. Y plus 2 equals negative 4 parentheses x minus 6. That's point slope form. I want you to make it slope intercept form and then also standard form. Who knows? This is all the second lesson. Point slope form. It is 24. You're right. Trust yourself. Okay, so it's not that difficult, right? You got to distribute, and then you got to move that 2 to the other side. That's not that bad. What did y'all get for slope intercept form? Y equals negative 4x plus 22. So here's what it looks like in point slope. Here's what it looks like in slope intercept. One more little step to make it standard. 4x plus y equals 22. Or they could have negative 4x minus y equals negative 22. Now, what could make this even more fun? If the slope was a fraction. Let's do that, shall we? Y'all look so excited. Alright, y minus 8 equals negative 1/2 parentheses x plus 5. What's the slope of this line? Negative 1/2. Can you tell what point I used? What point did I use? Negative 5, positive 8. Alright, do we want to do this one together or can you handle it? Oh, here's Zoe. She must have overslept. Thank you, thank you. You're probably going to need to watch the video because you are coming in at the tail end. Okay, folks, we still have a whole other little section we got to do, so let's get going. I would distribute the negative 1/2. So this is going to become y minus 8 equals negative 1/2 x minus 5 over 2. I just left it as a fraction. 5 over 1 times negative 1/2 is negative 5 over 2. Now, I really wouldn't suggest getting rid of the fraction because you're going to need it's going to have a fraction slope. I would just use your calculator to help you do the math. What do I have to do next? I've got to add 8. What am I adding 8 to? Not to 5 over 2, to negative 5 over 2. So I would just use my calculator to do the computation. I would do negative 5 over 2, and you have to understand that I've got to get rid of the minus 8 by doing plus 8. And it's going to tell me 5.5. What is that as a fraction? 11 over 2. So this would be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 11 over 2. Do you see how different these two lines look? And they're the exact same line. Now, standard form. Now you have to get rid of the fraction. I would choose to multiply everything by 2 because you have to get rid of the fractions. So that's going to be 2y equals negative x plus 11. That wasn't that bad. Now move the x over and you get x plus 2y equals 11. So again, look at those three different lines, how different they look, and they're all describing the exact same line. Okay, let's talk about what your homework's going to be. Now, wait, don't put up... No, we still got some stuff to do. Your homework's actually probably easier than that. On your homework, they are going to give you 2 points on a line. And they are going to ask you, or I'm asking you, to write the equation of the line in point-slope form. Well, what do you need to put in a line in point-slope form? You need a point. I'm giving you a point. In fact, I'm giving you 2 points. What am I not giving you? I'm not going to give you a slope. Guess what you have to figure out? The slope. Okay, so your homework's going to look like this. And no matter what the directions say, this is what you are doing, what I am telling you right now. Are you with me? I'm giving you the point, negative 2, negative 4, and let's say negative 4, negative 1. Okay, good question. The answer is, she asked me what point do I use to write the equation. The answer is you could use either one. But just so we all have the same answer, let's agree we're going to use point P. We're going to use the top one, the first one, point P. It would be correct to use either one. But we're going to use the top one just so our answers are all the same. Now, why do I even need point Q then? To find the slope. You got to know how to find slope. How do you find slope? Y minus y over x minus x. Somebody said stat edit. I guess you technically could do that too. I really want you to get some practice on doing it manually though. Doing it with your brain. What would I subtract on the top? It's not that hard. Negative 4 minus negative 1 over negative 2 minus negative 4. You see how I'm doing y minus y over x minus x? What's negative 4 minus negative 1? Negative 3. What's negative 2 minus negative 4? So what's my slope? Negative 3 over 2. And if you had done stat edit, it would have told you the slope was negative 3 over 2. Now I'm going to write my equation. What point did I tell you to use? I told you to use point P. So I would go y minus negative 4, which what's that going to turn into? Plus 4. Equals 3 over 2 times x minus negative 2, which is going to become x plus 2. That's my answer right there. That's what you're doing for homework. All right, you try one more. One more. We're going to check homework in just a second. All right, P and Q. I'm giving you 2 points on a line. I'm asking you to write the equation of the line in point-slope form using point P. Just so we have the same answers. You could actually use either one, but we want to have the same answers. All right, find the equation of that line in point-slope form. What's the slope of this one? Yeah, it was a nice whole number slope. The slope is 4. What point did I tell you to use for the next step? P. So this would be y plus 11 equals 4 parentheses x plus 2. If we had used the other point, it would have looked like this. Y plus 7 equals 4 parentheses x plus 1. Do those look like alike at all? No, but guess what? They are the same line. I want to show you something. I'm going to put them both into y equals. Without converting them, I'm going to put them both into y equals just by moving the numbers over. So I'm going to put in 4 parentheses x plus 2. And then how do I get that 11 to the other side? Minus 11. Okay, so I'm just modifying it a little bit to make it calculator friendly. The second one, I'm going to put in 4 parentheses x plus 1. And how do I get the 7 to the other side? Make it minus 7. I want to show you, look at the T-chart. These are the exact same lines. Do you see how I'm getting the same y values? Because these are the same lines. Even though they don't look alike, they are the exact same lines. Which one did I want you to put? The top one. I want you to use point P on your second step, just so we all have the same answers. I don't want to have to write down 2 separate answers for every question. Does that make sense? Hold on one second. You're doing for homework page 307, 1 through 15, just like I just showed you. Page 307, 1 through 15. The homework that was due today, we are about to check, so get it out. Make sure you write this down, because I'm about to stop the video, turn this off, and we are going to grade homework from yesterday. Page 307, 1 to 15. Shout out to Ashley's mom. And Trajan's mom. And Ariana's mom. All of second period moms. Oh, except Jaquan's. Alright, I'm stopping.